This is CBC Here and Now.
30% of the people using the food bank network in Newfoundland and Labrador are children. Ugh, that's a really bad number. Sorry.
It's a hard statistic to swallow. Why a corporate donation made today is so desperately needed. Landed in Labrador and together again, a family of Ukrainians finally reunited in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. I'm Heather Gillis in for Carolyn Stokes. We'll get to those stories shortly, but first we begin in Mount Pearl. The long and tense strike in that city has been over for nearly 3 months, but there's a sign that harmony hasn't been fully restored. The union leader who led workers on that nearly 12-week strike, well, he was fired today. Here and Now's Terry Roberts is standing by in our newsroom. Terry, what can you tell us?
Well, Heather, look, some eye-opening news from the Canadian Union of Public Employees this afternoon. This man, Ken Turner, he's president of CUPE Local 2099, fired, according to the union, from his job as an engineer with the city of Mount Pearl. Turner was the public voice of the more than 200 workers who went on strike in early July, beginning what would become the longest labor dispute in the city's history. One that saw the city accuse striking workers of intimidating and bullying city managers, the union holding its ground at various picket lines. The strike ended in late September, with the union claiming victory, higher wages, fighting off some big concessions that were on the table, but only 65% of workers voted to ratify the agreement. Now today, this latest sign of trouble. Ken Turner got his walking papers. He wasn't taking my calls today, but the top CUPE official in this province, Sherry Hillier, is saying it's retaliation for the strike. Hillier says Turner's dismissal is being linked to a respectful workplace complaint the union leader filed against the city. Hillier says the union will fight Turner's dismissal and had this to say in a statement. Terminating a dedicated employee of 11 years who was also a 22-year military veteran who retired with honor and distinction just 2 weeks before Christmas is just a disgrace, and the city management should be absolutely ashamed of themselves. Now, I got Mayor Dave Aker on the phone this afternoon. He said he couldn't say much because, of course, this is a personnel matter. But when I asked him if this was retaliation for the strike, here's what he had to say.
No, it's not a labor relations matter. In this case, it's a personnel matter, and we have to keep it all very confidential. And there are processes involved through our collective agreement for dealing with these types of things. And I would ask everybody, including the media, to respect the collective agreement we have between us and CUPE.
Now, I asked CUPE's Sherry Hillier if the union was planning any action for Ken Turner's dismissal. She said absolutely and soon. Heather?
Thank you very much, Terry. Now, Newfoundland Hydro's profits are up nearly $500 million more than the $37 million taken in this time last year. The extra money came from Nalcor's oil and electricity exports. Most of the money will be used to service debt on the Labrador Island Link until the troubled transmission line is completed. And a program aimed at keeping former inmates with mental illness out of jail is stopping in the new year. The Canadian Mental Health Association has run the Justice program for more than a decade, but in less than a month it'll cease operation. Interim CEO Katharina Kennedy says the association is moving in a different direction. Kennedy says the Justice program isn't part of the mandate, and while it is provincially funded, finding external funding is a challenge. The province says it's looking for another organization to take over. The program has been lauded as a success, with nearly 70% of former offenders staying out of prison. There are 10 people in the program today. They've been notified, and Kennedy says she's found other groups to help them. All but one of the case managers who work to find the people in the program employment, housing, and stability will be losing their jobs with the association when the program ends next month. To municipal news now, the City of St. John's has unveiled its budget. While there is no mill rate increase, the water tax will go up $45. Some recreation fees will also increase, but Council's finance lead says the city is feeling the pinch of inflation. CBC's Jeremy Eaton was at City Hall today and joins us live. Jeremy, is there any good news to tell today about today's budget?
Well, before we get into what will cost you more, and yes, there was some good news. So sitting at over $333 million, which is up more than 4% from last year, the city is still finding ways to invest in 2023. So there will be more staff and more money for things like enhanced snow clearing. Now, mainly that'll be sidewalks and a pedestrian activated crosswalks. Now, ridership for Metro bus is up, so they're going to add 2 new extra buses on Route 2 and another to Route 10. Now, that'll start up in the summer. But after a review, and this happens every 3 years, rec fees will rise for things like after-school programs, swimming lessons, and some drop-in fees. Now, here's Councillor Ron Ellsworth.
I think we are in a very strong position, in good shape. Obviously, there's inflationary items that we can't control that are concerning, and we've seen it, and we all feel it, and certainly a large number of our community feel it very hard. So I'm comfortable where we are, but we're also cautiously moving forward into preparing for the next budget cycle.
Now, as we mentioned in the intro, the water tax is up by $45, meaning that cost has risen to $670 a year. Now, the mill rate will remain the same, 8.3 for residential and 26.9 for commercial, which was something very important to council, not to raise taxes. But the city has increased its subsidy for St. John's Sports and Entertainment by nearly $1 million. So in 2023, that group will get more than $6 million of taxpayer money. But when it comes to sports and entertainment, Ellsworth has this public plea.
Coming out of COVID, we are still struggling with getting events in. Promoters are not looking to come here. And if we're not getting promoters to come here, getting events in here and getting revenue out of there is tough. I would like to make one small plug if I could, and that is the tennis we have in the facility right now, the hockey and the basketball. Folks, you got to show up. If we want to have hockey and basketball as we move forward, we need bums and seats. Because for the business folks who are there trying to run these facilities, they need ticket sales. For us who run the venue, we make money on food and beverage, so we need that money.
So Ellsworth spoke to the media for about 15 minutes after he delivered the budget, and he says there are a few things down at City Hall that are costing more money, like gasoline and diesel, which means the city had to pay an extra $5 million for fuel alone. Now, every single councillor who was there, and there were 3 who weren't, and the mayor voted in favor of the budget. And while there were some sticking points, given the state of the economy, not raising taxes was a #1 priority. Reporting live from the newsroom, I'm Jeremy Eaton.
Power has been restored in Red Bay in southern Labrador. Ice on power lines caused 21 poles to snap on Friday. Now joining me is Councillor Vicki Hancock and the town manager Alice Morse. Thank you both for joining us.
You're welcome.
Well, what was the weather like out on Friday when those poles snapped and the power went out?
It was raining most of the night. It rained most of the night, and it was warm temperatures, but I guess over the hills it froze a bit.
My husband and I went south up towards Fordo that way, and the road was perfect, like summer driving. A very short distance from the main highway, there was freezing rain and fog, and it built up on the wires, and everything just collapsed, and all the poles broke off. And of course, then we were left without power, and not only were we without power, but we were without long distance as well, and no cell phone coverage. So we were cut off completely. So it really did put us into emergency mode. On Saturday, we were looking at -15 temperatures Saturday night. And so everyone was really concerned about freezing pipes and not being able to have heat in their homes. Some people have wood stoves, but others have electric heat and electric furnaces. And so it was a very scary time for a little while.
And how are people in the community faring now that the power has been restored?
Well, everybody's quite pleased, actually. Most people just want to be able to cook, because for a while you couldn't even cook. We had the generator that we had only provided so much power for in our homes. So most of them had to just use their own generators at their own house, and cook their own meals that way. But right now, like I said, it's good to know you can go and wash your clothes.
Yeah.
Okay, well, Vicki Hancock, Alice Morse, thank you so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you. And I would just like to thank everybody that came to our rescue. really quickly. The hydromen, I mean, they've been out there working 18 hours a day. And just like to thank the government. I mean, our MHA, local MHA was there 24/7. She called and we had her number to call her at any time. Everybody was excellent and it went really fast, which is we're very grateful for.
Yes, and Bella Lyons as well, who restored
Yes.
our long distance, the local employee here in this particular region, took it upon himself to try and splice together the telephone wires so we could have long distance back. So the response was amazing all around.
Just looking at some of those pictures, incredible amount of ice accretion for sure up across parts of the strait. That was all drizzle because of the temperatures in that onshore flow for a good chunk of the island for the last week or so. Right now feeling a little bit more Christmassy out there. We are seeing some wet pavement, but there are some flurries that are in and around at the moment. -1 right now in St. John's. That wind chill feeling more like -5, but we're still sitting under high pressure, believe it or not, as far as the pressure is concerned, but obviously seeing some weather associated with that. A very weird surface front at the moment. We do have a pocket of cold air as well moving across across Labrador rather, but this area of low pressure here to the south is going to be our weather maker for the next couple of days. Environment Canada has issued wind warnings as well as special weather statements for a good chunk of the island. As far as the wind is concerned, we will see those winds ramp up by the time we get into tomorrow morning and then gusting upwards of about 120 kilometers per hour in exposed areas along the west coast. We'll talk about that and the full forecast coming up.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, it was a warm welcome on a cold Labrador night. Dozens gathered at the airport in Happy Valley Goose Bay on Wednesday to watch a Ukrainian family be reunited and welcomed to their new community. Here and Now's Heidi Adder was there.
Not long ago, Vasil Panasic and his son Yuri were touching down at the Goose Bay Airport, about to begin a new life in Labrador. Now they're the ones waiting, anxiously tracking their family's flight. Panasic's wife and daughters are traveling from Poland. It's where they've been since fleeing the war in Ukraine. The two men arrived in October in search of a home for the family of 5. Now they've got the keys and the go-ahead to bring everyone together again. So they wait for wife Irina and daughters Ludmila and Anastasia to come through the doors. Dozens of people have come to greet the mother and 2 young daughters. They brought more flowers, gifts, breaking through the language barrier with hugs and smiles to let the family know they're safe and welcome here. 10-year-old Ludmila is all smiles.
Very pleased to be here. Very pleased, very excited.
The girls are gifted bears. Mom is handed chocolates. Also in the crowd, about 14 Girl Guides from the Happy Valley Goose Bay troops.
She's very excited. It's really wonderful. It's a wonderful welcome to see so many potential friends.
The self-appointed spokesperson of the family, Ludmila speaks to media through MHA Perry Trimper. He's able to translate after working in the Russian and Ukraine region for 14 years.
Well, I have really no concern about how they're going to do here. I know they're going to be very successful.
The girls will begin school soon. They'll be off to Mealy Mountain Collegiate and Queen of Peace School. The two are working on learning English, but Ludmila says it's more complicated than learning Polish.
Yeah, she said, yeah. So it's Polish and Ukrainian are very close. They're Slavic language. Angielski это другое. Yeah, English is going to be another thing, yeah.
Trimper says he hasn't seen a welcome quite this warm. He says the family and another family who arrived on the same charter will have support. Both have a caseworker to help them get settled. Heidi Adder, CBC News, Happy Valley, Goose Bay.
Bye-bye.
For more than 2 decades, Newfoundland Power has partnered with the Community Food Sharing Association to help those in need over the holidays. Workers collected money and food and donations earlier this month at the annual downtown St. John Santa Claus Parade, and Newfoundland Power matched those funds to make a large donation to the group today. Take a look.
Well, we've been doing it now for about 23 years. We've been part of the downtown St. John's Christmas Parade, and we partner with the Community Food Sharing Association. And this year we had around 45 employees that participated and helped out that day to collect monetary donations and food along the parade route. It's just really important in the community. You know, there's a need there, and we have a lot of people who come back, employees who come back, and retirees as well, who come back year after year. It's something that's almost part of a Christmas tradition for them now.
This time of year we're so busy, there's so much demand, and I know that we say that every year, but it's just the truth. The demand is getting high. We're going into neighborhoods and towns and places we've never gone before. 30% of the people using the food bank network in Newfoundland and Labrador are children. Ugh, that's a really bad number. Sorry. And we're seeing 10% of our population, 10% of our users are now seniors. That's tough to swallow too. So when we get a donation like this and we get a corporate sponsor come on board like this, you know, you can't help but get goosebumps, because it means that like immediately we can turn that into a family receiving a hamper. No matter how we do it, whether it goes to Port aux Basques, goes to Nain, you know, goes down the street. It just means that we have that ability, and that's really why we exist. We exist to move food, and these kind of donations help us do that.
This year, we're connecting more, we're sharing more, and we're helping more. This season, whatever kind of season you make it, make the season kind.
I said the motorhome's gone. She thought I was joking at first.
I wanted it to be a joke. I could see on his face, he looked really upset.
They came to Newfoundland for a fresh start, but their RV and everything inside was stolen and burned by thieves. Belongings, Christmas gifts, all gone. Their story ahead after Ashley's forecast.
Well, the next 24 to 48 hours is going to be wet, windy, and snowy for some areas. I'll break the full forecast down coming up.
Welcome back, and it's certainly looking a lot more festive and like the holiday season out there, with some snow this morning and some flurries this afternoon. What else is in store, Ashley?
Yeah, definitely nice to see after a week basically of RDF, but temperatures much cooler today and the start of a pretty messy 48 hours. Let's take a look at the daytime highs today. -1 in St. John's. It's the first time we've seen below zero temperatures in a while. And then Corner Brook, well, basically the rest of the island sitting in the minus single digits, and then up across Labrador, a cold pocket of air there. -11 in Cartwright, -14 in Happy Valley Goose Bay, and -2 in Churchill Falls. So there's a look at the setup, upper level setup, pretty complicated. In fact, ridge of high pressure. Generally, we've got a couple of fronts, but there's that cold pocket of air that I was talking about. That is really temperatures are pretty chilly. -19 in Happy Valley Goose Bay, -21 in Churchill Falls, and temperatures towards the coast as well between -8 and -12. But look at what happens as we head through the night tonight. That cold pocket is going to move further west, heading towards Lab City, and then we're going to start to get into some milder air. So temperatures are actually on the rise towards coastal areas of Labrador as we get into the morning hours, even more so into tomorrow evening, as you can see those temperatures really rising, especially across the island, but up across Labrador as well. And that trend generally continues as we head into Wednesday. So as far as temperatures go tonight, that cold air generally into the -20s for Lab West Central Labrador. Otherwise, temperatures will be hovering in and around the minus single digits, and then temperatures actually warming up as you head further east. But still looking at that potential for flurries pretty much across the board. If we take a look at what's going on right now, those flurries are starting to work their way towards the west coast. There are some happening in eastern Newfoundland. They're fairly light though, so they're not really showing up on the radar, but they are there, and we'll see that continue as we head through the night tonight, as this area of low pressure that is to the south is going to start to move in. So also winds are going to ramp up as we get into the morning hours, especially along the southern areas of the island, southwest corner. You're talking about 50 to 70 km/h winds by the time we get into the early morning hours. Then the bulk of the precipitation will start to move in. Now in the higher elevations, likely going to stay as some snow, but right along the south coast, we're talking about some rain in this case. Now, to be completely honest, this forecast is fairly tricky. The disagreement between the models is incredible at this point as far as what type of precipitation is going to fall and just how much precipitation is going to fall. What I can tell you though is tomorrow will be windy right across the board. Winds gusting, easterlies, winds gusting somewhere between 80 to as much as 100 to 120 km/h, especially in those areas that are prone to southeasterlies or easterlies along the west coast. And it looks like the eastern portion of the island will see the most significant rainfall. Also through central, and then again in those higher elevations, we'll likely see snow with this one. We're talking about 10 to 15 centimeters, but the most significant rainfall will be for the east. Now the other thing with this one, the low is going to track through the Cabot Strait. Likely going to see some significant waves along the southwestern portion of the island. Definitely going to keep an eye on this as the second high tide Wednesday or late Tuesday night. So we're talking about the potential for 6 to 8 meter waves. So I'm certainly going to keep an eye. Definitely worth a mention as far as that amounts go. But the snowfall amounts over the next 48 hours, likely in the higher elevation, somewhere between 20 to 30 centimeters, certainly possible. And then rainfall amounts as well, significant for the east. So we're talking about the potential for 30 to 50 millimeters. By the time we get into Thursday, though, we could be talking about 100 millimeters of rain for parts of eastern Newfoundland. So definitely going to keep an eye on that one as well. As far as temperatures go for tomorrow, above zero, right across the board, 3 to 6 degrees. And then as far as Labrador goes, your temperatures are in the single digits as well, coldest in the west, where that will stay as snow. We'll talk about the rest of the forecast coming up.
Thank you, Ashley. Well, they set their sights on a new life out east, moving to St. John's from British Columbia. But that dream quite literally went up in smoke. Erica and Sandy McChar, who are separated, arrived with their 4 young children in an RV. Just before Erica and the kids could move into a new apartment, their RV and everything inside was destroyed. The two parents shared their story with On The Go host Anthony Germain earlier today.
We decided to get an RV and RV across Canada and really get to know each of the provinces and kind of decide where we wanted to land. And then we got about to, I think it was about Halifax, and we had been hearing a lot of really great things about Newfoundland and its community and the more nature and rustic lifestyle. A classmate of mine had said, hey, you know, I know some places that are hiring if anyone needs a job. And I was like, pick me, I need a job.
We're both like remote students, and I have like a side job that I can do remotely as well. So we weren't really like tied to BC at that point. So we just decided to, you know, pretty much sell everything that we own that wouldn't fit into an RV and, you know, make a trip out of it.
So tell me a bit about your family and what happened when you got here.
So I needed an address to get hired at the job and to do all the security clearances and stuff like that. So I'm house sitting for somebody out here while they're away. And it was fully furnished, so that was a good starter until we could find a place. And it took me a couple months, but I found a place for us to move into and started collecting stuff.
So you put all of your belongings in the RV, have I got that right? So give me a sense of what kind of stuff would be in there.
Well, she had bought, you know, mattresses and furniture for the new place. Christmas presents were all in there as well. Most of their clothes. Unfortunately, all of our important documents, like birth certificates and passports and my college diploma and
baby books,
photo albums, everything else that's, you know, kind of irreplaceable. Pretty much the only things that we still have here are like 3 days worth of clothes and our laptops because we're students. So
we do, like, the toys that are right here are the only toys left that we have.
Yeah.
So our kids lost all their toys. And my daughter, oh my gosh, she my poor little heart. She goes, it's okay, Mommy. I know we lost our presents, but, you know, you don't need to buy us more presents. And I guess, you know, at least we have presents from Santa.
It's pretty heart-wrenching.
I try not to cry every time I say that.
What happened with the RV?
I was taking the garbage out on Saturday and I noticed it was gone. So my first thought was it was stolen. So I reported it stolen, and the police officer I reported it to, I guess they didn't know that it had already, you know, caught fire the day before and had been towed and stuff. I think there was a shift change happening, and there was BC plates on it, so there was a lot of confusion as to who to contact, so they didn't know who to contact.
We asked if we could go and see it and see if there was anything salvageable or anything like that, and we're not allowed to see it. No one will tell us any more information until the investigation's been completed.
So it sounds to me as though something obviously happened, either something caught on fire or, God forbid, somebody lit it on fire, or whatever happened, and then they just towed it away without, I guess they couldn't find you because of the BC plates, or what do you think?
That's what we're thinking, maybe. It's weird that it caught fire because our propane was off, everything was off in it. Our batteries, I think the batteries were dead.
The house batteries were off.
Yeah, so there was no power to it.
2 weeks before Christmas, what are you going to do?
So we started a GoFundMe because honestly, I've never really asked for help before. I'm not great at that, but we really do need it, and I really want to make sure that my kids aren't sleeping on floors.
This is awful sort of news any time of year, but particularly before Christmas. I don't know what to say other than I hope that you get the help that you need, and I hope you can find a way to have a Christmas, at least, if nothing else, you're all healthy, you're all together. But thank you very much for sharing your story. I appreciate it.
Sharing, Ren.
Thank you for sharing our story.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Saying I'm really smart, I just like to dig, and when I dig deep.
Richard Dewey believes there's something dangerous in the water in Deer Lake. He's on a mission to prove it. Up next, we'll have the latest in Malone Mullen's in-depth series, Toxic Towns. Welcome back. We return now to part 3 in our ongoing series, Toxic Towns. Tonight you'll meet a Deer Lake man who's been raising alarm bells for years. He believes the public water supply has been compromised due to a canal littered with waste and debris, and he's on a mission to prove it. Here and Now's Malone Mullen has this feature report.
It's against the law to know something's in a water supply and not do anything to report it or to get rid of it.
Our water sampling on the other end, on our tap end, was safe, clean drinking water.
Our water supply was used as a dump site, and we need it cleaned up.
Richard Dewey had a feeling something was in the water. In 2014, he gained information that set in motion a years-long investigation.
Now inside one of the penstocks. The smell in here is terrible. Creosote. And we drank out of this for 70 years before somebody flew in and said, uh-oh.
Dewey lobbied to have decades-old garbage removed from the Humber Canal. In 2019, he got his wish.
Corner Brook Pulp and Paper's parent company, Kruger, hired environmental specialists back in June to haul up the barrels from the canal. Divers found 74 drums dating from between the 1930s and 1950s, thought to have once been used to float wooden booms before sinking and being forgotten. The barrels were rediscovered a few years ago by a Deer Lake resident worried about water quality.
So we're in Deer Lake, where it's a company town. Deer Lake Power and Kruger are a big employer on the West Coast, Corner Brook, Deer Lake. So I've gone up against them guys and tried to hold them accountable. I've gone up against the town of Deer Lake, which is a huge employer here. And I've gone up against the provincial government. So 3 of the biggest employers in this area I've gone up against to fight for answers. And you know, I've been beaten up on over this, and I just want the truth. So what we're looking at here is we're looking at Deer Lake Powers. This is the generating station for the mill in Corner Brook. Up above it, you'll see the penstocks run from the forebay. That's where we actually drink from. Within 100 feet of that building were all these drums. We're down by Deer Lake Power's operation, where I came down 5 years ago this week. One of the employees from the canal came over. We engaged in a 26-minute conversation. What he told me led to the next 5 years of me researching what was dumped in our water supply. He made mention that, you know, on inspection at one time on the canal, they lowered the canal lower than normal, and they couldn't get their inspection boat up through the junk that came to the surface. 2 months before this, I buried my mom with kidney cancer here, and I was floored that this all was happening and nobody was doing anything about it or saying anything. It's against the law to know something's in a water supply and not do anything to report it or to get rid of it. I can't get my head around how somebody wouldn't do that. Put them I'm gonna do is I've got this sample taken that was leaching out of the ground up there, and I'm gonna take a bit of it and I'm gonna put it in the water, and let's see what comes out of it. Now, no creosote here, boys. A couple of days before the cleanup, I've been coming back and forth here, letting everybody know the status of the cleanup, where they were at with it all. I had an interaction with a couple of staff that were here. They were looking for drums. I left, went home, and a couple hours later, the RCMP show up and they charged me with mischief.
You weren't on the water, you didn't chain yourself to anything?
I didn't chain myself to no equipment. I didn't get involved in any of their operation that's going on. I might be a lot of things, but I ain't a criminal. And I gotta check with my lawyer now because last time I got arrested, I wanted to file a complaint against them for knowing what was in our water supply and not doing anything about it.
For years, they've been trying to get the results of water samples taken here. Everything's been covered up or brushed under the rug.
Dewey believes the drums in the Humber Canal contained toxic material that has leached into the town's water supply for decades. A closure report from 2019 suggests they were always empty.
The sediment sampling showed all limits below thresholds, so it was very comprehensive testing that was done, so we expect that closes the matter.
We're going to set up a meeting after I talk to my lawyer about filing charges against people that knew this was in our water supply.
That hasn't convinced Dewey or others in the town that their drinking water is safe.
All we're asking is we want answers to questions, and we can't seem to get it.
Welcome to Deer Lake. Don't drink the water.
It's not fair.
If a substance has some amount of cancer-causing molecules in the substance, even a tiny bit, if we are exposed to that we are contaminated, regardless of how small the amount is.
Now we're down in Pasadena at a contamination yard. It's a disposal company that disposes of dangerous goods contamination. This is where the drums were sent.
You want me to come out and check and see what was going on?
Yeah,
there,
and that's all. Just a follow-up on the report of the canal cleanup. That's all it is.
They tested it before we start washing it.
They didn't test it.
They came here and took samples and stuff right off the top of the drums.
They say in the report they never tested it.
Well, I was here when they come and tested, took samples off the top of the drum.
Cool. So we just came from the clean-out facility in Pasadena and spoke to staff down there. He's describing oil sheens on the drums as they were cleaning them out. Samples were taken. None of that was in the report, and that's the questions I've been asking this whole time.
Does it concern you at all that it was actually a resident, civilian that had to go looking for something in the water, and that the town wasn't aware of that to begin with?
Nobody wouldn't have been aware of it if the elevations of the water wasn't where it was to. You know, how many communities you go out and dredge canals? That's a workplace. That's an operation from Deer Lake Power that we would have no reason to be in the canal. And our water sampling on the other end, on our tap end, was safe, clean drinking water.
Woke up with hives this morning. Anyway, we've got to go to court, but we'd all like for this to be over. 9 years is a long time.
There's a number of questions that somebody should answer.
The people here are still suspicious, But Kruger says company management didn't know about any debris in the canal and said it inspects the area regularly for signs of pollution. A 2017 public health study also showed no higher rates of cancer in Deer Lake.
Barrels or drums or whatever they're referring to them as in the water supply that had never been used. There was something in them at some point. So what was it, and what did the generation before us drink?
The mischief charge against Dewey was later dropped, but his fear remains.
But what you do to people's minds is another consequence. If you make people uncomfortable and worried, that's a negative. That's a cost. You know, just like if you were making them pay more money, or you were harming them physically, you're harming them mentally. You know, by taking away their peace of mind.
This is where we're at. I couldn't let it go. I had to see this through. I had to see what was up there and make sure that it was cleaned up so our grandkids that we're sitting here waiting to see someday won't have to deal with this issue. Anyway, I hope my mom's smiling.
Definitely pizza and good buffalo wings.
Probably be like pizza.
It's coming down to the wire at the FIFA World Cup, but for some people, it's all about the game day food. We'll explain up next. Welcome back. The World Cup semifinals are on this week, and it's down to the final four. Fans will be watching and munching when Argentina and Croatia play tomorrow afternoon. And we wondered which game day snacks are scoring big points. CBC freelance contributor Andy Bullman put that question to some diehard fans.
My favorite World Cup snack would be beer and chips.
Definitely pizza and good buffalo wings.
Probably be like pizza. I'd say pizza. Maybe like chips as well on the side and some wings.
Beer. No two ways about it. It's beer, man. Like
tacos de carnitas with a side of mango jarrito.
In Brazil, I would say it's a little bit different from here. We have this meat called picanha, which is basically cow meat, but I've never seen it being cooked here. So it's basically any type of meat, cow, chicken wings, anything, not fried, just usually barbecued in general, and some other exotic ones that people don't really like here, or like cow tongue, chicken heart is very typical. The chicken like intestines and pig intestines, pork meat in general. Every type of meat is valid. Everybody just brings their own, and then we all cook together and make sure that there is enough food for everybody. And probably we aim for extra than to have shortage, because we know we will make use of it on the next game, and probably even on the next day if we need to party, just because of the win and celebration.
Moving on now, if you're thinking of buying gift cards for family or for friends this holiday season, be careful, very careful. Gift card scams are a big problem. Philip Demontier has more on the latest tricks that are being used by scammers to steal consumers' money.
These 2 Walmart gift cards totaled $700 when Kevin Wilson received them as part of a Black Friday promotion. Now, they're just about empty.
You can see there's 27 cents.
One had been spent in Richmond, BC, a nearby Vancouver suburb, the other in Mississauga, Ontario.
I was in shock. I mean, the cards hadn't left my, possession.
Wilson tried to figure out what happened and discovered this security flaw.
You can go up to the self-checkout and simply scan the barcode off nothing more than a picture of the back of the card.
We put it to the test. First, we snapped a picture of a gift card, then loaded it up with $5. At checkout, we scanned our purchase and the picture of the gift card barcode. Et voila, transaction complete. What's more is the printed receipt gives you the remaining balance on the gift card. Walmart tells CBC News it's now looking into this.
Being an ex-police officer, I've sure dealt with my, many scammers.
Nichelle Loss recently discovered another kind of scam, where a thin barcode sticker is applied on a different retailer's gift card.
When you lift it, you can definitely see that it's different. And had the transaction gone through, I would have loaded $100 on a fake LCBO card that the person at home is going, yeah, and they're gonna go spend that. And meanwhile, I've bought essentially an empty PlayStation $100 card.
And boom, you got your barcode.
This cybersecurity expert says this type of scam is easy to do and hard to track. He says retailers need to be more vigilant.
Maybe keep the gift cards behind the counter. Inspect the gift cards on a daily basis when you're making your rounds to ensure that there was no tampering.
Between January and September, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre has received more than 1,000 complaints related to gift cards and prepaid credit cards, totaling close to $3 million in losses. A number experts say is underreported and likely to spike this holiday season. Philippe de Montigny, CBC News, Toronto.
Welcome back. Ashley's here to talk about the weather that is on the way. It looks like it's going to get a little bit messy for the rest of the week. What's in store?
Yeah, messy and windy for the next 48 hours, it looks like. So let's take a look at what's going to happen Tuesday night into Wednesday as the system that tracks across the Cabot Strait still affecting the weather as we head through the day on Wednesday. Now, most of what falls should fall as rain, except in the higher elevations. On the west coast and through parts of central, we could see some accumulating snow. I showed you earlier, we could be talking about 10 to 15 centimeters, but there could be some pockets, especially in the higher elevations where we see near 30 centimeters. So definitely going to keep an eye on this one for sure. Wednesday, we'll see a bit of relief as far as those winds are concerned. It'll still be gusty, still gusting around 60 kilometers per hour. But we'll see relief at least through the day on Wednesday because it will return again. Those windy conditions will return again on Thursday. Temperatures through the day on Wednesday will sit somewhere between 2 to 4 degrees across the island, up across Labrador. That mild air sticking around 0 or 1 degree, and then towards the western portion of Labrador, you're still looking at your temperatures below 0, about -2 through the day. And again, the chances of some flurries pretty much across the board. Now, even along the strait, as those temperatures are hovering around 2 degrees, we could see some rain in the mix with that one. Now, as far as Wednesday evening into Thursday is concerned, another area of low pressure now to the east is going to keep those winds brisk through the day on Thursday. Another ridge of high pressure moves in, but it's still going to be unsettled along coastal areas of Labrador, especially the southeast. And then again, we're back into that northerly flow, which means some cooler temperatures, but also the chance of some snow again on Thursday. Likely staying all is rain for the eastern half of the island. By the time we get into Thursday evening and overnight, it will likely end as some flurries or some mixing anyway. Temperatures again, mostly above 0. Towards the west coast, a bit cooler. You're hovering near or above 0, somewhere between 1 or 2 degrees. And then up across Labrador, again, those temperatures between 0 and -4 through the day. Now, taking a look at the long-range forecast into the single digits, pretty messy, pretty windy right across the board. Same thing for central and western Newfoundland. Not a whole lot to talk about as far as those temperatures are concerned. And then for Labrador, we're looking at some sunshine midweek, or rather at the end of the week. And then same thing for Western Labrador as far as those temperatures are concerned, but a bit more flurry activity in the forecast for you. Great shot here to share as we leave you tonight, Labrador City sunrise. Thank you so much for that. If you have any weather photos, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Isn't that nice? Sun nice and low in the sky this time of year as we approach the solstice. Anyway, that's our show for this evening. Good night. Take care.